Hi, I'm Simone Elbow, host of Ask HR, the place where you get answers to your burning HR questions. I want to talk to you today about how to get visible at work. One of the things that I do in working with progressive professionals is helping them to, first of all, get out of their own way. So they may have limiting beliefs, recurring habits and behaviors that may cause them to remain stuck in certain patterns. The other thing that I do is to help them get clarity about their purpose so that they have a very clear understanding of their why and what they are about. And the third thing that I do is to help them amplify their brand. So I can very clearly identify in people that message that they want to share, whether that's in the workplace or in their community, and to help them to build a brand that reflects their leadership and their expertise. So one of the things that people would often ask is, how do I get noticed? I want to get promoted, I want to move forward in my career, but it seems like I always get overlooked. Well, there are two tips that I'd like to give you today, two things that I think you ought to focus on. And one is, what is your value? You have to identify your area of creative contribution. How are you contributing to your team, to your department, in your career? It's very important for you to have an understanding of your value because you're gonna have to sell that value. Too often I see people who sit back and they're waiting for their managers and leaders to recognize their value and to then just drop this gift-wrapped opportunity in their lap. Well, it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes your leaders are extremely busy about doing what they're doing, leading and thinking about strategy and operations and all the things behind the scenes that you may not know about. So when you are quiet on the job, and you're just going about doing your own thing, and you're not making yourself visible, then people will think that you're very content right where you are. And so have you ever heard the expression, the squeaky door gets the oil? Well, it's the same thing at work. You may be wondering why is it that these people who seem to have just marginal talent or bad attitudes seem to be getting in the face of people who are key decision makers, who seem to be getting opportunities? Is because they put themselves out there. They make themselves visible, and even if their value doesn't add up to their perception of their value, they are expressing themselves in a way that their value is seen, whether it's real or not. So you have to have a very clear understanding of your value so that you're able to sell your value in the right and appropriate times at work. And the next thing that you need to do is find your voice. And your voice will allow you to have courageous communication. What does that mean? That means if you are typically that person who's gonna sit in a meeting and just take notes and listen to everything that's going on around you, and you may have a great idea or an observation, and you walk out of that meeting and you don't say anything, you're not gonna get noticed that way. You're not gonna be visible. I can share a quick example with you of when that happened to me. And I was actually in my graduate program studying for human resource development. And I was in a class and the lecturer was going on about something. I can't remember what the topic was. And she asked the class, does anybody know what this word means? And before, I had never said anything in the class, never, because I felt intimidated, right? I felt like I was outnumbered in this class, that these people, I didn't recognize my value. So I felt that the people that were in the class were better than me, smarter than me, and all of these things. I had all these points that I felt intimidated, and it made me quiet. And before I could even stop myself, I blurted out the answer, because the answer was something that I had learned years ago when I was probably 12 years old in confirmation class, believe it or not. And I never forgot the answer to that definition of that word. And so it just flew out of my mouth before I could stop myself. And the lecturer looked at me like, oh, this is the first time I'm making a contribution to the class, and I'm spot on. On the break, the lecturer came up to me. I was getting some refreshments or tea or whatever it was I was getting at the time, and she came up to me and she said, you know, you should really contribute more in class. And it was as if she just pulled the stopper off me. And after that, I continued to contribute. My classmates would push me forward and say, well, I think you should do the presentation on behalf of our group. And I became visible. I got noticed where I was not noticed before. But you have to find your voice. You have to find that courage to get out of your comfort zone and to show your value, to make your contribution in the workplace so that people will know that you're there. Otherwise, people will think that you're happy right where you are, and you don't want anything different for yourself. I can't tell you the amount of times I've had meetings with staff who have expressed an interest that I wasn't even aware. I had no idea that they were interested in that particular area. And until they said something, then now it put them at the forefront of my mind so that when an opportunity came about, I would be able to recommend them for an opportunity or just give them a heads up and say, hey, there's an opportunity coming down the pike. You should go for it. But if you don't say anything, you won't get anywhere. So those 2 tips again: know and understand and share your value, and use your voice to speak courageously in the given opportunities that you have at work so that people can see you, see your value, and perhaps you'll be successful in that next thing that you want to do. I'm Simone Elbow, HR strategist and host of Ask HR.